in the Channel Islands are the UK lobbyists who for years have been calling on both the coalition government and its Labour predecessor to crack down on the VAT-free scheme. Now, their work could see Guernsey's economy down by £300 million and 600 people out of work, as it was revealed yesterday that the LVCR will be scrapped in April. David Gork, Exchequer Secretary to the UK Treasury, explains.
It's not fair on businesses that are trying to sell DVDs and CDs and other items that essentially they can be undercut by competitors who aren't having to pay VAT and are therefore offering prices considerably reduced. And that's not fair. That's an exploitation of the tax system. That's not really what low-value consignment relief was originally about. And as a consequence, I think because things have moved on in the way that they have, we've had to take this action today.
Well, listening to that is Richard Allen, spokesperson for the lobby group Retailers Against VAT Avoidance Schemes, or RAVAS, and he joins me on the phone this morning from the UK. Mr. Allen, good morning.
Good morning.
Are you pleased with the announcements?
It's very good for UK business. Much as I'd like to think that we have power over the UK government, I'm sure we don't have that degree of power. I think the reality is that so many business organisations, including the Federation of Small Business and the form of private business, and even organisations like the Musicians' Union, who are seeing their incomes falling as a result of prices getting forced down. All these bodies complained to such a degree that it went all the way to the European Commission, and really it's Europe that's been putting the pressure on this one. And I think it was inevitable because if you look at the legislation that covers this issue, the UK is under an obligation to prevent LVCR for being used for this purpose.
So you're saying this has come from Europe and not from the UK as a result of your lobbying?
It has, because we actually met with the European Commission and they launched an investigation into this about 2 or 3 years ago, and in the end they decided that this was abusive.
Just remind us of the reasons why you were so keen to have this what you call a loophole scrapped.
Well, because what was happening was that this wasn't just a case of a few packages coming into the UK. You had companies like Play.com advertising, television advertising. I can recall walking through London seeing billboards all over the place advertising essentially VAT-free products, which in a country where VAT is obligatory is just bizarre, frankly. And I think that it got to the point where it was just overwhelmingly it was distorting competition to such a degree that the government really had no choice but to take action.
How do you feel about the UK consumer who's going to miss out?
Well, I mean, if you accept the argument that no tax is good for the consumer, then yes, they're going to miss out. But I'm sure there are people that wouldn't. Most people would realise that if you don't have, firstly, tax, services don't get paid for, but secondly, if you are going to apply a tax, it's got to be fair and it's got to be applied to everybody. You can't have a situation where companies are essentially avoiding tax in the middle of a marketplace where everyone else has to pay it.
You say it's got to be equal for everybody, but the UK is not introducing this across the board. They've picked out the Channel Islands, focused on the Channel Islands, and yet there are other countries that will be exempt from this.
Well, I've been reading the report about this with interest, and I notice one company is intending to mount a legal challenge. Well, the reality is that the scale of this industry from the Channel Islands is absolutely huge. I've never seen a company from Hong Kong or America or anywhere else with billboard advertising in London and TV advertising and advertising in all of the UK newspapers, which the company that's going to challenge this actually does, because I've seen it. Nobody else does that.
Are you not worried, though, that these companies will go and set up elsewhere in Hong Kong or Switzerland or wherever it might be?
If they do, then the UK will have to take action against those as well.
And will you be lobbying for that as well, then?
I don't think we'll have to lobby as hard as we did, because the Commission basically made a decision that this was completely unacceptable, and the UK is under an obligation to prevent that kind of behaviour.
Just remind us where your interest in this started. You used to run a record shop, CD shop?
No, I used to run an online mail order business in a fairly well-known record label, and it was just something that needed to be dealt with. And it wasn't just me. Loads of other businesses got involved with me, and we formed an organisation to highlight the issue, because essentially there was nobody else really organised, it was complaining, even though lots and lots of individual businesses have been complaining for a very long time.
But your group's only got about, 40 members, hasn't it?
It's got 40 members, but some of them are very big. I mean, I can't mention names, but I mean, we've got a nationally known company that's involved with it.
Okay. You've still got to compete, you and other businesses have still got to compete with the massive buying power of the supermarkets. There's the growth of downloads. Do you really believe that this is going to make a difference to small and medium-sized businesses in the UK?
It will, because the issue is this, is that if you want to sell on the internet, this particular tax avoidance arrangement is aimed at the internet. And if you are successful with any product on the UK mainland, you will face a competitor that decides to set themselves up offshore to undercut you. So it's a very, very important issue, because the internet is supposed to be a marketplace in which everybody could compete equally. But with this arrangement, that was completely removed.
Do you recognise that there are higher costs for businesses in the Channel Islands?
There's higher costs for businesses in Glasgow. Yeah, I mean, I don't accept that argument. You can't have tax advantages based upon where you happen to be located in the UK. The reality is...
Well, we're not located in the UK, are we? We're not actually part of the UK.
Well, I mean, you can't argue we should have a tax advantage because we happen to be in a particular geographical location. I'm not aware of any tax that operates on that basis.
But Guernsey is a different jurisdiction.
Yeah, but I mean, the argument just doesn't hold any water. I mean, you can't... Firstly, I mean, I don't really understand what your argument is, because you're saying that because we're on an island, we should have the right to undercut VAT in the UK. That doesn't make any sense at all.
So, as a result of these changes that are due to come into force from the 1st of April, does this mean that you're going to be reopening your business?
Well, you know, I run a business already, but I mean, I'm not currently operating an online operation. I might do. I didn't fight this for me to run my business, if that's what you're suggesting.
And I just had a question coming from a listener this morning saying, why can't you name the members who are in RAVAS?
Because they don't want to be named. Basically, the problem is this: is that anything to do with tax, as everyone would be aware, is not a popular issue with the public. I mean, this is why the UK government never did anything to deal with this issue. You know, because at the end of the day, everybody votes for people that will give them things cheap. But the reality is that tax is something that is a necessity, and you can't just keep removing taxes, because at the end of the day, if there were no taxes at all, then only people with money would have any benefits. There would be people that didn't have any money would be in the gutter, literally, wouldn't they? Because you'd have no public services, nothing at all. Tax is an issue for politicians. It's not an issue for businesses, and it's not something that they can...
But you've made it an issue for businesses, haven't you?
Well, it's a campaign organisation, and I'm the spokesperson. But I mean, I'm sure that there are... I know for a fact that there are businesses based in Guernsey that don't want to be there, that are extremely unhappy with this situation. And the only reason they went there...
Explain more.
Well, the only reason they went there was because they had to go there, because the market was distorted, and in order for them to compete, they also had to join in. But they didn't want to do it, but they were forced to, because it was a market distortion.
Thank you very much indeed for your time. We have to leave it there this morning. That's Richard Allen from RAVAS, the Retailers Against VAT Avoidance Schemes. Later on this morning, we'll be hearing from Guernsey's Commerce and Employment Minister, Deputy Carla McNulty-Bauer, also a member, too, of the External Relations Group. 18 minutes past 7, BBC Guernsey. Here's David.